Well, hello again, this time from the sunny sunshine state of Florida. The key features of this southeastern oasis: white sandy beaches, coastal high-rises, theme parks, and wide open space. Here in central Florida lies the sleepy town of Sebring, once buzzing with the roar of B-17 and B-24 engines overhead. The old Hendricks Army Airfield in town was repurposed in 1950 for engines of a different type, race engines. We've traded turboprops for flat fours this weekend for round 2 of the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. The elevation delta of Sonoma has been traded for brutal high-frequency bumps from concrete over 80 years old. We're not all that close to the ocean and a few hours drive from the theme parks, but the wildest ride of all will be on board one of these Toyota GR Cup cars in iRacing this afternoon. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by Justin Prince today for the second round of this great esports championship. Justin, welcome aboard. Sonoma was fantastic. We saw some great racing. Vicente Salas came out on top there, but we've still got 6 rounds of racing to go, and you could not get a more polar opposite racetrack to Sonoma than the bumps here at Sebring.
Yes, we were talking about this just a few minutes ago, in fact, about how with Sonoma in the rear world especially, it's now very smooth, especially with the repave as of late there. But when it comes to Sebring, very bumpy. In turn, going to potentially bump these drivers and bop them around the racetrack a fair bit as well. This is one of the tracks with recent graphical updates in the past couple months that now has the 3D curbs iRacing's been putting in across the service. So a lot of drivers will be having to deal with those curbs, in some cases, for the first time in a major event. Yeah, certainly the curbs are going to be a big topic of discussion. So will the changes in pavement type from asphalt to concrete, back to asphalt again over the course of this over 3-mile lap. We'll go over the Continental Track preview in a couple of minutes' time, but let's quickly recap where we were last month at Sonoma Raceway in California, just north of San Francisco. And Justin, the racing there was spectacular. Vicente Salas came out on top. It was really a 3-car breakaway, though, at the top of the order. As we have a look at our points coming into this race, up at the top is Vicente Salas, 36 points over Andre Castro and Ethan Lampe, but Thomas Belleman, Micah Hendricks, and Paul Darling not too far behind. Salas and Castro, though, really set themselves above in the later stages of that last race. Remember, both of them worked together when it comes to Jesse Wu Ji and his race team, so it was no surprise to see them race as much as they did respectfully during that race. But today brings a lot more challenges because Sonoma is a bit more tighter, a bit more technical, but you also have a technical track at Sebring that is a lot more draft dependent potentially today. So we may see a lot of change today. Yeah, a lot of straightaway here in places, especially down the backstretch from turn 16 to turn 17. And we'll talk more about some of the rules that have been implemented just in case things get a bit chaotic here at the end. Wanted to also wish a congratulations to Miguel Colon, who welcomes a new baby into the family last Sunday at 10 a.m., newborn baby Michael. So congratulations to the Colon family. Miguel Colon down in P25 last week, and we'll see how he can do this week here as qualifying is already underway. Of course, there are cash prizes on the line here this season, Justin. $10,000 over the course of the season are really on the line, and $300 to the winner of each race. So get up and go for it, because there's cash to win. And a lot of drivers are absolutely hungry for that, because remember, a lot of the drivers you see in these events race in the rear world, and the more you can build up, the better in terms of getting yourself more opportunities. We mentioned Vicente Salas competed at the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series for the first time since the last start. You have several of the actual racers for the Rear World Series, like Michael Yanni in the field today, who also raced a ton on the virtual world. So, again, the competition's fierce out there. It certainly is, and here's what we're competing in, the Toyota GR Cup North America race car. This thing is spectacular. It's got all the advantages of the road car and some other things attached to it for racing. Of course, it's got that flat 4 engine, keeping the center of gravity low to the ground. Continental slicks, keeping it stuck to the road. Of course, that Sadev sequential 6-speed transmission, Justin, is another highlight that makes this thing a true racetrack monster. And you have to be careful to the gears in particular to get you rolling through that 6-speed sequential transmission. Also have to be very careful on the Alcon brakes, because it's very simple here at Sebring to end up locking up the brakes and sliding off the racing surface. You also have to be able to utilize all the downforce, especially with the carbon fiber ring and from that front end of the race car. We'll see how the drivers fare out today in the midst of Sebring in turn with this beautiful race car.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, let's have a look at our Continental Track preview for this race. Of course, it is about 3.25 miles around here, and all of those miles are exciting. It all starts with a run down the front straightaway up on those old concrete runways and taxiways from that Hendricks airfield into turn 1, a fast fourth gear left-hander. That's one of the corners where the bumps really stand out here on this Continental Track preview, Justin. But then you head into turns 2 and 3. 3 is a passing opportunity, but it is a tight one.
And it's one of the dangerous spots in turn as a result of how tight it can be. Then you go through turn and 4 and 5, set up the run to Big Ben. If you get a good run, you might be able to set it hard through the hairpin. Then it's the run through Fangio up all the way to Collier for 10 and 11 before you reach that final sector. That final sector is going to be that main setup spot today. To be able to get to Le Mans, and better yet to Ulman Straight, to build up your best passing opportunities up to Sunset today on the asphalt part of the racetrack.
Yeah, Sunset Bend, what an amazing corner that's known all over the world. It's being incredibly challenging. There's a number of different ways you can take it. All of them feel wrong. It feels very, very rare to hit that corner in stride. But with all that aside, it is now time to head down to the racetrack for qualifying coverage before we get into our 60-minute race here today. We're using the iRacing Simulator as the platform for this season of action. Of course, they've got the Toyota GR Cup race car, and they've got Sebring International Raceway as well as the rest of the tracks on the calendar. At the pointy end right now, it's Thomas Belleman in the number 3 who leads the way.
And he's been in the midst of a drafting train set up with Paul Darling, Matt Friedman, and a couple others as this has gone on. It's essentially become, where do you find friends? In the case of Belleman, he basically found friends with about 15 other people initially when they first came out of the pit lane here for today's qualifying session. But that's what one of the main things is to consider here. Getting trapped for the straightaway, but clean space for when you need to work in the corners. You can tell Belleman's quicker, in fact, than Darling in the corners, and that's going to cost him time even with draft.
Yeah, this is a fast racetrack, as we documented, right? So carrying speed is really important, especially with these long straightaways. While the Toyota GR Cup North America car is excellent in the corners, it doesn't have really all that much power. It's all about the balance and handling of this race car. So what that means is using the slipstream to your advantage, Justin. That's really how you're going to go fast. But there was some new rules implemented about bump drafting in particular to keep everything on a fair playing field and to keep everybody from running into each other, especially in these long straights. Bump drafting is not allowed. Now, I should clarify that. You can give a shot to the rear bumper and move forward, but what you can't do is lock bumpers. That's something that we've heard talked about on some super speedway races in the past, but you can't just get up to the driver ahead of you, lock bumpers, and push forward. That creates a dangerous scenario, not only in the real world, which is why they discourage it there, but here in iRacing as well, if you want to get to the end of this 60-minute race.
Yeah, and some people do that on the sim, but most people don't. It's not as impactful, say, as compared to some of the other spec series you'll see on the platform. But there's Yanni, we're talking about him already. He's amongst those trying to get a lot of heat in those tires to try and get himself built up with no draft to pick up 0.2 of a second. He's one of the top drivers you'll find in this car class in the virtual world. And as we said, he's one of your real-world competitors as well. Yeah,
PT Autosport with Precision Racing LA, one of the team names that we have seen talked about before plenty of times. They've won a couple of races, in fact, in Toyota GR Cup North America. But Jenny getting in line here and getting ready to make another qualifying run. Thomas Belleman, who's currently on provisional pole. You documented a couple of other real drivers. Let's chat about the number 22 of Devin Anderson. He made his debut in the series at Sonoma last time out. Ended up having a pretty decent weekend there, and we look forward to seeing how he will do in the sunny Sunshine State of Florida next week.
Yeah, curious to see how he runs here. He's one of the drivers looking to get himself acquainted with the sim at the very least. Was in the 226s in final practice, but he's in the hard spot of doesn't have the same amount of help compared to some of the others that we've seen in the qualifying session. If anything, he's on a life raft looking to see, is there anybody I can attach my raft to be able to pull me forward, to be able to build up an extra second of speed.
And here's a raft I'd be attaching myself to, Vicente Salas, the winner from Sonoma. And the battling there, it didn't come easy. He really had to fight hard for it at Sonoma. And it already appears like he's going to have to do more of the same here this week at Sebring. 6th in qualifying. I would have expected him to be right at the pointy end. But we documented how this racetrack is such a polar opposite to Sonoma, Justin, that we might see a bit more of a revolving door at the front of the field here in qualifying at least.
Yeah, especially since it's really much so about the teamwork. They do have Castro in their respective group, but I've noticed in practice, He spent a lot of time, I think, trying to help out his Denzel Racing teammate on the technical side, Nate Stewart. He's one of the drivers that's worked with groups like Richmond Raceway's eSports team that eventually transformed over to Rise eSports for a few years. Now full on with Dead Zone for the oval side, and he's having a problem.
And will grind to a halt there at the exit of the hairpin, but that's not ideal. At least the one saving grace of this is you have a lot more time to qualify in this eSports series than you do in the real world series. Only 15 minutes, which is maybe 6 or 7 laps, if that. Probably more like 4 or 5 that we'll see next weekend in the real world series. But here in the Toyota GR Cup North America Esports League, you get about a half hour, so you get some more attempts at it. But it's still a long racetrack, almost 2 minutes, 30 seconds around. And what that means is you don't have all that many opportunities to go fast. So if you get your lap borked or you get out of order with the teammate you're trying to push with, it's going to cost you a lot of time, and it could cost you positions.
And that's why being coordinated with your teammates is key. Take Jason Landry for example. SRO Motorsports in this respective grouping. He's got 3 teammates today. One of them to work with in Micah Hendricks, at least for this part of the session. This is where talking with the teammate over the radio, making sure, okay, are you good? Okay, are you going to help me this lap? Perfect. Okay, and was it good enough? No. Okay, I'll help you try and bounce back. You see, for example, looks like they're getting ready for a reset, maybe one more chance for one, if not Hendricks backing out to be able to then regroup on the tire wear. That's why he just vanished there. Essentially get himself gathered up, get the new car ready. You see right here, he's seen the bobble, have to correct it, said, you know what, I may as well take one more fresh crack at it instead of having it borked by going through the grass.
Yeah, and you're only going to get maybe 1 or 2 more cracks at it with 8 minutes left on the board here in qualifying. Jordan Rick Segrini, another Florida driver that's going to join us here this weekend in the number 18. He finished second here in, I believe it was race 1 last fall when SRO Motorsports America was at Sebring. And hope to see him back in the paddock in the real world sometime soon as he heads back out on the racetrack. P18. Another driver that we always have to talk about is Aiden Yoder in this Segra number 44. Things didn't go his way in race 1 at Sonoma. He got rear-ended in a big way at the hairpin, but he rebounded in race 2 and had a nice result to the end of the weekend. And we'll see what he can do. Currently 30th, so lots of work left for this Precision LA with Segra number 44.
Yeah, just has the tail end of a drafting group right now in the case of Yoder. Didn't get too many times down to final practice either, just about 10 in total. So, in our words, he's playing some catch-up where some of the drivers in this session alone were in the grouping of near 100 laps over the course of an hour to make sure they were up to speed here, and that's not including the tests that people put in outside the main sessions. That being said, though, rear-world speed and rear-world experience is extremely vital, and that's why we're seeing people throughout the field rely upon and learn a lot from drivers like Yoder in the field, because eventually, if you try and get to the real world, you need to be able to find someone to help learn from, and you become the sponge to learn off them.
Weston Workman learned a lot from his teammate last weekend or a couple weeks ago at Sonoma. He was chasing the tail of Gresham Wagner a few weeks ago. Didn't come out on top there. He came up just shy of winning race 2 in particular at Sonoma, just a few laps away. But he learned a lot in this number 13 JBL Toyota, currently 15th. He was one of our biggest movers at Sonoma. Didn't really have a great qualifying effort, but starting mid-pack and with all the vengeance that he is ready to go tackle here, I think Weston Workman is going to be a driver to watch with that experience that you mentioned.
And I think based on the fact he's already knowing, maybe I shouldn't be the lead car for this draft here, he's already picked up on some of the traits for the qualifying session. I think he might be one of the ones to watch today, because if he does what he did at Sonoma speed-wise in the race itself, we might see him in the top 10, if not the top 5, because that's how quick he was, where he was as quick as the leaders by the end of the race. It was just, I think, the catch-up factor that cost him in the early going at Sonoma.
Yeah, certainly. So with the catch-up factor out of the way, and pretty nice weather here today as well. Now, we should remind everybody that's watching here again, we're using iRacing. We've got variable weather on, but we are not anticipating any wet weather here this weekend. However, there is going to be some wet weather at some point in the season. We have yet to know exactly when that's going to hit. Can't really know it that far out, but the weather today is pretty warm, about 81 degrees ambient, which means that the track temperature is going to come up pretty high as well. I'd anticipate seeing that continue to climb Right now, the track temperature is 50 degrees Celsius, though the air temp is only 26.
For reference, it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit, I should say. Yes, very hot. Just below the temperature to fried egg, for those curious. I believe it's 130 and 150 for an egg on a frying pan. But it also means a lot less grip on the track than most people would be used to. You can already see Joshua Soto, for example, starting to drift around a couple of these corners even, almost looking like he's trying to reach towards the handbrake with the way his left hand's going.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got, well, you see the sequential there, shifting just like the real set of 6-speed sequential transmission. Not sure what he's going for with the left hand there, but could be some kind of button of some sort, communications or whatnot. But Joshua Soto going to try again to get one more lap in here before this session comes to a close. A couple of the drivers that didn't have a great start at Sonoma because they got caught up in some early incidents were the SRO Motorsports guys. Alex Cofford was one of them. That got caught up in the opening moments of chaos, and Giovanni Romano was the other. And both of these drivers would just like to get through a race without having any of the early lap dramas. That also resulted in some other rule changes coming into this week, including a start zone and now the requirement to remain in your column and not passing until the start-finish line is crossed. That was a rule implemented to match the SRO rules and in result of Sonoma last week.
For a lot of drivers, they might be thinking, okay, how do I rebound here? And part of that, again, comes down to track position. But better yet, as a whole, when it comes to this, my main thought on that is the later the racing, the better. You don't want to end up having your race after weeks of preparation come to an end, lap 1, turn 3 in this case, at this racetrack. You want to be able to turn the laps. You don't want to be like the HJ machines, be sent off in the grass. Look at this viewpoint, though. That almost looks like a 4 to 5 monitor setup, not 3.
He's got enough monitors to see what's going on, that's for sure. That's Alex Cofford's view over the left shoulder. I think that's a really nice angle to kind of see his particular sim rig, hopefully with some Fanatec gear that he's got rigged up here. Off into Sunset Bennett. He's going to go straight, so it looks like he is bailing out of the qualifying efforts here at Sebring International Raceway. He will not have enough time to run another lap before the session is over. Thomas Belleman has put in 8 laps, and he's still on top by about a tenth and a quarter of a second, 2:24, 2:87.
Yeah, I think at this point, Bellman's going to be very happy. No one's really been able to touch that time, especially with how the track is looking in terms of the temperatures. Even the drafting groups, I mentioned the difficulty of that even when you have the pole down the straight. And for a lot of these drivers, those drafting groups just have now completely split apart, almost like you would expect to see in a race. And that means essentially you have lost that draftability. If you're not on the track now, on a flyer right this minute, you're probably staying stationary on the pylon.
I would just like to point out that this racetrack is 3.7 miles. We have 21 cars within a second. That is a phenomenally close ordering, considering how long this racetrack is. 3.7 miles. I mean, if you lose a tenth in every corner in 17 corners here, you're off 1.7 seconds, just to keep that in perspective. So that's how tight the field is. The entire field, with the exception of Max Hewitt, who had a late start to qualifying because of a penalty from last week, is within 2 seconds. So just incredibly close as we watch Paul Darling navigate Lamar Bend here, turn 16 to set up for that back straightaway, and he will likely get one more go at this here.
I don't know if you realize, you said 1.7 seconds off. That is on the nose for Sam Adams,
yes.
Right?
1.660.
Yeah, so I know he's one of those in the Dead Zone camp, known for being one of the drivers that have also built up the road program in the league scene with SimCar as well. He's going to have a very hard time because just about all his other teammates are up an extra 20 positions except for Justin Nazir. It's going to be a rough one for him possibly on the quali.
Yeah, to start down in the outside of the 30th spot. Max Hewitt again had a 15-minute qualifying ban because of a contact and issue at Sonoma that put him back here. Full qualifying ban for Logan McKenzie. That is, again, for an incident that was at Sonoma. So it happened, the penalty happened post-race, so there was no way to penalize him in the race. So they decided, Stewart, Finney, and DeCunha decided to just prevent Logan from qualifying. And honestly, in a 60-minute race, even with that length of time, I think that's still a pretty severe penalty, Justin, because you just have to pass so many cars. 36 cars McKenzie will have to pass. And by the time that we get there, or he passes all those cars, we'll likely be pretty close to the end of the race. We do have the possibility of a full course yellow, but I wouldn't hold your breath.
That will require a big track blocker, and that's basically asking for carnage, if not race cars to fall from the sky. But in all seriousness here, with the checker flag waving in the session, a lot of good times for Bellman, in particular. Yanni Polasek, we talked about him potentially being a contender in these races. Didn't live up to the billing at Sonoma. That qualifying position within 2/10 of the pole is going to make it fun in the early going, knowing how much Polasek puts up time up on the board and in races with the spec cars.
Well, the big thing about Sebring is just making it through lap 1. That first corner, it just opens for disaster. Look how wide that racetrack is. We're going to start 2 by 2, even lines in your column until you get to that start-finish line. Once the drivers cross the stripe, Justin, all bets are off. We're going to see 3, maybe 4 wide. I've seen 6 wide down here. Let me tell you, they did not come out of turn 1 6 wide, because when you leave there, the track narrows up to basically 2.5 lanes wide. That math does not work. So getting through turn 1 is always critical, but here at Sebring, it seems like it breeds those aggressive starts, and we know how badly those can turn. We saw that even in the real series here last year in race 2.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the turn 3 run, though, I almost think it's a bigger point of contention for incidents than it is the opening quarter itself on the opening lap. 3-4 wides expected. You'll have a couple drivers off, but all it takes is one driver to clip the grass, one driver to miss the braking point, one driver to not get on the brakes early enough, and you end up having a 10-15 car pile-up of drivers and bumper bars and pieces of your front splitters into the grass. That's the main fear for some. You get through that section, I think you're okay for the rest of the first lap at least. Outside of that, no more hand-holding from the initial start. You better have your bubble wrap ready.
Juan Lin up to 6th place. He'll be row 3 for the start of this one, assuming that Ryan Doucette isn't going to knock him off the top. I don't know that Ryan Doucette will have time to get back to the stripe either in that number 77, but he's got 1 minute and 23 to finish the last sector of this 3.7-mile circuit. We talked about the new curbs. You see them right there. You run out wide. When you come back across them, you see that car bounce violently airborne. Justin, that's going to be something drivers will have to navigate, because that will happen right there. Too much curb for Doucette, and he's in the fence.
Massive contact for the Bonfide racer for the Northeast. And you said it right there. Already was trying to utilize some of the curbing. Had a lot of suspension chassis rolling in the first place. Didn't even have it gripped up for half of the corner. And a very rough break for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver.
Yeah, and it's tough because you have to be aggressive through here to make speed. That turn 16 is critical to get the right side tires over that. There's speed to be had there, but if you hit it just a bit wrong, it's going to cost you in a big way, and Ryan Doucette will stay no better than 23rd on that qualifying effort. There's your starting lineup on the left-hand side of the screen. We'll run through it again here momentarily. Let's have one more look at the Continental Track preview here, Justin, before we get into race time. 17 corners, 3.7 miles. This track's been here since 1950, but it's had a variety of different layouts. The current one has been in use since 1999. Of course, turn 7, that's your major passing opportunity, and then into turn 17, that will be your last passing opportunity at the end of this 60-minute race. I'll bet you all the money in my bank account that we will have a fight into that last corner on the last lap.
It's going to take a lot of bravery to get it done, and better yet, don't be surprised to see a crossover even in that type of a section here today through Sunset. But better yet, that middle portion going to be tight for these drivers in a few minutes.
Well, time to grid and get ready for round 2 of the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. This is going to be spectacular to watch. Thanks for joining us here on GT World or on the SRO Motorsports Twitch channel. Again, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Justin Prince. Again, looking down at Sebring, all the different surfaces, the way the track is rubbered in at the top right of your screen, that'll be a topic of discussion in a 60-minute race. Be about 25 laps, but the distance is 1 hour. And there's your field gridding up. Justin, major points of this race, well, we talked about one of them, get through turn 1. What are some of the other keys to winning here at Sebring?
Being able to maintain the draft. You lose the draft in the long term, it's going to cost you. Even if you pull away from said draft, there's the strong potential, Kyle, that you end up getting reeled back in by anybody who's still in a train by a good second a lap. The major final point, essentially, find out where your friends are. Once again, we've seen how that came into play for the battle for the win even at Sonoma. There's a chance that comes in huge today.
Absolutely. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. We will not be treated to that all season long, so you might as well enjoy it in the face of, the Florida storms that can blow through here very, very quickly. I've seen that firsthand. Also seen the fire ants here firsthand. Ask my ankles from last September. No thanks. But as we get set to go racing here, let's have a look at our starting lineup here today. Front row, it's Thomas Belleman and Michael Yanni in the number 92. The PT Autosport with Precision Racing LA driver on the front row. Then it's going to be Michael Pulasic and Paul Darling behind them. Then it's Ethan Lampe and Wan Shi Lin. The rest of the starting orders will be on the left-hand side of your screen. But Justin, this is a solid grid of 37 of North America's fastest drivers on the iRacing surface.
A very stacked field, a very strong field. For those curious on iRating average totals for today, it's a 4,200. That's equivalent to one of the higher up totals you can have on the roadside on the iRacing platform. So some of the best you will find at all on the road course side. Looking to duke it out. A lot of big names, though, you see, though, when the team's on that pylon. You have Jason Landry back at 11. Andre Castro, a contender last time in 15th. Workman didn't get higher up than 17th in the end in qualifying. Others like Rick Segrini going to need to make up a lot of ground at the edge of the top 20.
Yeah, a lot of ground. You got time to do it, though. 60 minutes. This is a 15-minute longer duration than the Real World Series, which will race right here on GT World next weekend. So make sure you tune in for all the SRO Motorsports action from Sebring International Raceway and for the rest of the year. We've also got Circuit of the Americas coming up in a couple weeks' time as well. That's a big one for the Austin-based SRO Motorsports Group here, at least in North America. Very exciting things happening in all the rounds this season. But Toyota GR Cup North America is back on track next week at Sebring, and this is the preview to that racing that we're going to see next week. I'll be joined again by DJ Clark for the racing next weekend. But Justin Prince alongside me for the eSports stuff, and here we go. Doubling up here in a moment. Drivers warming up their Continental Racing tires, Justin. When they get to turn one, they're going to need all the grip they can get.
They're going to also need to be having all the awareness they can get and gather up to make sure they know how tight it's going to get, but better yet, where all these cars are about to place themselves on the racetrack. If anyone second guesses themselves in this field, we might see some sliding in the midfield, especially once they get to turn one, before they even get to the hard-braking turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, a lot of Florida natives here in this field as well, and perhaps there's a bit of a home field advantage, maybe for some. We've got, let's see, from the Florida state, we've got Miguel Colon is a Florida native. We've also got Keelan Terry, who's a Florida native here this weekend. I know that Jordan Rick Segrini has spent some time. I think he still is in Florida. So we'll keep our eyes on those drivers who might have done some more laps around here than others. And that experience is going to transition from the real world back to the sim and then back to the real world as we head through Bishop Bend and then into Jean de Bienne and then into Le Mans. All these famous corner names, because this track has been here for almost 80 years. It has been one of the staples in North American road racing and on the SRO Motorsports calendar the last couple of years, Justin. But 60 minutes from now, we're going to know who is going to win this race.
There's a reason when it comes to the special event side as well. This is one of the crown jewel tracks you want to win in, regardless of the event, regardless of the circumstance. You want to win here because it's one of the most challenging places to get a victory because of all the circumstances, because of the bumps, because of the different types of racing corners when it comes to utilizing the draft, and the fact it takes a lot of luck and patience. You don't have the patience, you don't have the luck, you don't have the speed. It's a hard combo to be able to try and get the victory lane in the end without.
Well, palm trees and sunny skies here in the state of Florida. It is time to go racing in the Toyota GR Cup North America Esports League, round number 2 from Sebring International Raceway. Here we go, green flag already. The 92 switching lanes. I wonder if those drivers have already forgotten about the rule that you cannot do that before the start-finish lines. There could be penalties already for some of those on the front row. 3 wide down into turn 1, and it's a big lunge from Pulasic through the middle as Ethan Lampe goes to the bottom through that first corner.
City Machine trying to play some hard defense, though. That's Michael Yanni, in fact, to the crossover back. Some good defense from Yanni to be able to slunge back after the initial set. Everybody made it just about through turn 3.
That's amazing. We're still 3 wide through turn 3. Weston Workman in the JBL cars right in the middle of everything here. On the outside of him, Ben Blaustein in the 41. That's the silver car. They're going to get line astern now. What a phenomenal start. We kept everybody pointed the right direction, although I do anticipate some penalties coming for some start procedures. They were new this week. They were talked about in the drivers' meeting. That could be big problems. There's Vicente Salas, the Sonoma winner, deep on the brakes into turn 7.
And he's one of the drivers, remember, who is very aggressive in NASCAR. He's extremely aggressive when it comes to not having the track position. You need to get it the best chance possible off these initial starts like this, and that's why you're seeing some of the drivers like Castro saying, you know what, in normal circumstances, I go back single file. In most, I've got to at least play hard defense, because the further back I go, the harder it's going to be to make these passes.
And big lunges over the curbing as well in Cunningham. That's turn number 10. Whoop, there's Weston Workman off track just slightly. He's going to go back in a hurry. That's going to be a critical issue for him, and he's going to get squeezed here on the run down to Tower Turn. That was tight.
Initially, I think it was Ben Blaustein. You see right here, just kept side by side, made a touch bit of contact, forced Workman to correct. A great save to keep it out of the wall. The problem is, we see what happens. Eventually, had to rejoin, and that's cost him a lot of time in the slow-up, and everybody wants to try and pass him from it.
And here's Aiden Yoder in the 44, the Segra car, the blue car in the foreground out to the inside of Blake Townend in the 57, trying to sneak up there in between, jumps the right side tires up on the curbing. And we're still not even done with lap 1. 13 to Workman all the way to the inside, covering off a move there from Chris Wetz in the 71.
Yeah, now at this point, Wentz is saying, I can't touch you, so I may as well at least save a bit. That's not going to work too well. That was Rick Segrini continuing to be the biggest mover on lap 1. He's looking to go up near double-digit positions already. And
Josh Soto's in the middle of that as well. That's the black and white number 10. We're 3 abreast now. Matt Adams is one of these cars, I believe. The 17, that's the purple car. Center of your shot there. Kevin Rold following. Look at this action into turn 1 on lap 2. There's a 10th between Belleman and Yanni up front, but Pulasic runs third. 8/10 back car around. It's Landry.
Oh, that's not going to help Landry, to say the very least. Already talked about him out of the top spot. Sharp going off the track. It looks like he may have tried to go on a lunge on Castro. And it comes down quite simply, Kyle. You choose the timing, you choose the line. If someone chooses to try and pull the block, well, you choose the timing. Well, you have spinny spins, just like this. Watch the set. Castro's going full commit defense. And Landry was trying to set it on him, not expecting it, obviously, and Sharp just gets clipped in the end.
Yeah, and then right back here, Devin Anderson, big sideways slide for him, and he just lost this all in his zone, and then big impact into the tire bundles there for Devin Anderson. That will end his day a bit early. That car, I don't think, is going to be repairable. Back up to the front, though, it's Yanni and Belleman, first and second.
Starting to get a little bit of a rhythm down at least. Try and get at least a 2-car breakaway, because I mentioned it's going to be hard if you have no help with the draft because of how big it is for everybody else. But if you get a 2-car break like this, you can make it a 2-horse race. You can make it just between you and the car in front of you, so long as you cooperate. If you go back and forth, try and rip away the race lead every couple seconds, it's entertaining, absolutely, for us. But it could cause some frustration with the number of variables that can build up behind you.
Well, race control, no further action on the race start for the number 92. I was going to say how relaxed he looked, and he'll be even more relaxed once he hears that call made. And yeah, I guess whatever situation landed there, he has not been, he's either been warned or something, but that's going to bring Pulasic right back into this mix. And Belleman had a bit of a slide leaving Tower Turn, and it's now 3 cars at the front of the field.
Yeah, but honestly, in the midst of this, when it comes to Michael, as someone who's called races with him, as somebody who's seen him as race control for several series, as someone who's seen him rise up and become one of the top drivers when it comes to this style of racing, that 3rd car in this line, I think it's quite simple to say Michael is going to just wait patiently, let these 2 battle, and let them try and battle like this.
Side by side into turn 1. Yanni's going to wrestle the lead away from Thomas Belleman and change the lead for the first time this race. Pulasic looking to grab a spot as well. They're going to go door to door into turn 3, maybe a crossover from the black 3 car, and jump in the curbs now into the infield.
Yeah, like I said, if you're the third car in a group like this, the smart thing is wait to see what happens. You try and force it in there, you're likely going to end up losing ground, and you know who catches up the pieces? Paul Darling in that case. You have to be smart to win these types of races today.
Drive-through penalty for Matt Friedman, race start violation. They will have to come down pit lane, and it's going to be a long time at pit road speed. Side by side again for the lead. They're not done yet, and they're bringing more cars into the battle as well.
It looks like Polasek saying, you know what, if you're going to make a slip up like that, I'm just going to move to second if I can. Problem is, hard defensive line, yet he knows Polasek's speed does not want to let him have any chance to be able to get the pass done.
Oh, contact.
Oh, no!
The 92 gets pipped in the right rear quarter panel. That's going to push Polasek back to third. Here comes Paul Darling, Ethan Lampe, and Nate Stewart, and then Vicente Salas.
Yeah, that was a tight window once again, but I think that it just came down quite simple. Remember how close Polasek was on the entry, Kyle? All it takes is one bobble, no room for checkup. And here comes Mr. Excitement of eNASCAR. Some will argue Salas looking to see if he can join and pass all the cars.
Well, they're back single file again, but someone has just lit the afterburners, and the dogfight is on at the front of the field at the moment here. And no longer World War II bombers here, but the brawls are still on. As Salas tucks in line, Elliot Budzinski behind him, Micah Hendricks and Wan Shi Lin rounding out the rest of your top 10. It's a ways back to find Matt Adams. He's back in P12 with about 3.7 seconds, but he's leading his own group with Blaustein, Friedman, Rold, and Rick Segrini.
Yeah, these drivers, I think, need to basically say to themselves, if we want to get back up there, we need to cooperate with one another. We need to work together as a unit. Let's see, we already seen some contact from Matt Adams, one of your biggest movers in the midst of all this. But as expected, the two needing to come in, serve the drive-through, serve the penalty regardless. And this is going to cost him basically all the spots.
Yeah, it's a frustrating way to start the race for him. Back up to 12th place. Here's Adams back on Blaustein, side by side into turn one. Kevin Rold following, waiting for an opportunity to tuck underneath. Over, under through turn one. Nicely done. He's going to have position into three. And now it's a braking duel.
Yeah, but at that distance, the braking duel ends up going towards a lunging duel. And when you start lunging like that, you risk the contact. That's why I think we just see the backup. Speaking of drivers trying to come back up to the field, yet again, Workman, once he gets a couple laps down and gets through the start and through the up and down qualifying, seems to have the pace to be able to contend. He just doesn't have track position.
I think he'd really like to just start in the top 10 and stay there a whole race instead of having to fight back every time like he did at Sonoma and like he'll have to do here today. And unlike the Real World Series where you've got a two-race structure where you qualify for both, this is one race, one qualifying per round. So any mistakes early on are going to cost you all weekend long.
But the tough thing is, even if you go one race, two race, anything like that, Kyle, qualifying is, for some, you can argue, a different type of driving style because you're going hot lap pace as hard as you can, essentially. Well, in the race, you try and go that same tempo, you burn the tires off. You burn your Continentals up pretty quickly here within the first 20, 30 minutes if you push too hard. So that's where we see a lot of tire conservation and a lot of pacing yourself, especially in fields like this.
Yeah, great battle back here. Back in 27th, Nicholas Sudik, Mauricio Lozano, Cam Jordan, Logan McKenzie all back here. McKenzie was one of the drivers that was not able to qualify. He's up 7 spots here in the early going in this number 14. That's that blue and gold car. Got a teammate behind him in the form of Jason Landry. Well, Landry got back here kind of, I wouldn't say not of his own doing, but had that drama at turn one a couple of laps ago.
Of course, McKenzie, we talked about his penalty early on. Already has damage. If you see a little bit to the right side, he's picked up contact at the very least trying to get to the field. That's one of the major variables, is the further back you go, the more chances of contact, and that damage is going to hurt him a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. But on the bright side, even though it, as you said, was planned, team to work with, here we go again for the lead.
Side by side, Yanni and Belleman. Belleman on the inside in the black car, Yanni on the outside in the white and black car. And again, Polasek looking left, looking right, but there's nowhere to go here. The track's too narrow to make an attempt at a lunge. And Ethan Lampe looking a bit impatient back here in fourth. He would like to drive up into a podium spot.
Yanni's taking some very interesting lines, though, to try and get this done here on the Frenchman. just knowing, have to get the pass done, have to get it done without a bobble this time, get it done cleanly, because we've already seen how wild it's getting in the backdrop with some of the moves. High defensive movement. That's a little bit risky, but not a shock to see early on. It looks like, though, that Bellman has some great pace to even stick it on the outside.
This is spectacular, and this is what we were anticipating here at Sebring. The straightaways, the fast corners, they allow these GR86s to stick to the road and really do what they're excellent at, keep that balance. Are we going to go 3 abreast down into turn 10? Not quite, but they're side by side for third as they are for first.
Lampy, though, is right in that conversation. He's all of a sudden looking very powerful. Remember, he started in the top 5 once again here today. He's kept the car very clean, is just trying to keep the tires underneath while these two try and burn their Continentals apart.
Oh, watch that running wide onto that rumble strip. We've seen drivers drop tires and go for a ride into the tires. Quickly go from driving on a scenic road and looking at the scenery to being part of it. No fun. There's Paul Darling in the blue car in the background. Little side-by-side action with Polasek, who's dropped back a couple spots here. Darling completes the pass into Jean Dubium, but he's a little bit wide. And big slide for the 55 car.
That's the 3D curbing. We talked about it a little bit early on in the broadcast. The more times you hit the curbing, the more tougher it is. It used to be a little bit more smoother. Now with the updates, very tricky. Oh, that's going to be touch and go for the 11, though.
Yeah, this is the one of the other topics that the stewards were talking about was the bump drafting rule. As we go back to the lead, they're trading spots again. They're battling everywhere here in the top 5 here at Sebring. This is spectacular stuff. And Salas is going to get fully alongside Polasek, and he'll be door-to-door with Darling down the front straight.
Yeah, even with that contact, it's not really helped him whatsoever. He lost time. I think quite simply, you need help to get the job done. The more they fight for fourth, though, the more this allows the top 3 to be able to regroup and run away. They're all with the grass behind them.
Oh, man, Paul Darling went for a ride to try to carry as much speed as he could. Drives hard into turn 3, and he's going to keep the spot for a moment. Big jump over the curb. He is throwing that car around. And here goes Polasek through to complete the pass. What a drive.
Darling's going to have a problem the longer this run goes here, because he is destroying the tires on the defense here. Just barely touched the right side. My goodness, here we leap right to the door sides of some of these drivers, but everyone's saying now, I've got to go before he jumps into my door fully now.
Salas and Polasek, little side-by-side contact, car off in the background, and that is Micah Hendricks.
And yet again, what did we say about the hairpin? The chance for contact's high, quite simply. Just tries to run the bottom. Lynn tries to squeeze the bottom, come up from the inside car, off and away you go, and it's a rough one now for the whole team.
Yeah, Jordan Rixagrini's also had an issue. Let's go back and see if we can find where he went around. This is at the exit of turn 3, just catching the tail of it, so let's go back to the beginning of it. He's side by side with one of the HJ Motorsport cars, and he's going to tangle. Is that Ken House Seal that he's tangled with?
I believe so. I believe he might have hit the curbing, and yet again, if you bounce on the curbing right there, that's enough to just bounce you into the line. At that point, you're full squeeze. There's no room for error, unfortunately. Rixagrini had an error.
Yeah, look at this mess. This is all, well, trouble in contact. Salas gets tangled with, is that Andre? Oh, big crash. And Budzinski is the car that he was tangling with. Took a swipe at him, and Budzinski goes for a ride.
Yeah, that's gonna be possibly looked at. Take a look once again. You have the contact that gets stuck. Let's see this again.
Yeah, to go from the high above perspective here, maybe they get tangled right at the apex there, and then they come back across the road, and it just seems like they can't get unstuck. They're magnetized together, and then a left swing. I mean, you kind of typically would turn left there a bit to widen the corner out, but that was a bit sharper and a bit later than you'd anticipate. But that didn't work out for either of them. Budzinski's down in 29th. Though Salas only down to 10th.
Yeah, again, I think the reason for all that was quite simple. They just got stuck together with the diamond line from that initially. You gotta have a calmer head in that moment, though. Let's just put it that way, especially since it's still 2x2 around where Salas is. It's 2x2 now where the rejoin is. It's 2x2 just about everywhere with the even flag. 3 wide, that's not a good send.
No, I was going to say 2x2 is about all you can do down there in turn 3. That almost didn't work out, but great reaction. I think that was Cam Jordan's 19 who's able to get that woed up just in time. Checking back in at the front of the field, Yanni, Belleman, Lampy. They have now established themselves as really the top 3. Now, where did we see this last time, Justin? At Sonoma. The top 3 were able to kind of pull away and battle amongst themselves. But I don't think Polasek and Stewart want to let them do that. So we'll see if they can kind of 2-car tango and drag themselves back into this fight.
Going to be a little bit more difficult with just the 2 cars. They basically, if you're 3rd and 4th, first of all, I almost argue they need Darling and company to be able to be towards the rim here. Have Castro if they know Castro's fast. Lynn tries just about anything that has a time attack in a special event. He qualifies for a lot of these types of events. If anything, you get them all grouped together, I think that helps. Just don't pass each other for a couple minutes and then you're there.
Yes.
That's the argument I can make. If you go side by side, we've already seen this side by side, costs you up to 2 seconds here at Sebring today per corner.
I think the challenging part is convincing them that they're not allowed to pass each other. That's going to be the hard part. Is yes, this will work if you just stay behind a driver. That's not going to happen. Weston Workman alongside Sam Adams here, door to door into Lamar corner. Workman has driven his way back up to 16th, almost back where he started after that big off, leaving Cunningham early in the race. He's got a big push coming from Giovanni Romano, who's had a pretty nice race. Didn't have a great qualifying effort, but this number 99 is moving the right direction.
Yeah, the Canadians extremely quiet here in the series so far, but today, at the very least, just been playing itself well. Romanero, I should say. Romano, I should rephrase. Words are hard sometimes, but at the point of this, he's one of those with experience, knows, okay, we've had the talk of the rule book, here's the rule book, there's the fine-tooth comb part of it. Now I've got to try and change things up here compared to how I may do it for an official race, etc. Try different lines, see what happens, because if you don't get this done, you lose that entire group in front again.
And they're continuing to do battle back here. Workman has cleared the battle, but Adams and Romano, little side-by-side action there. And Ken House-Seal has been cleared of any wrongdoing in the incident with the 18. That was just down to a racing incident there, but here comes Ken to the outside of the 99. This is for 18th place.
This is, again, what I talked about. If there's the opportunity, some of these drivers have to get it done fast. House-Seal in particular, he's not getting a lot of space to even breathe, let alone get the corner exit here for Romano.
Yeah, that's where we've seen drivers tangle, leaving turn 7. The track kinks back to the left, and more often than not, the driver to your inside will kind of use you up there to clear you. But turn 7 is followed by the next major corner is another right-hander. So as long as you can stay drivers right, you're probably going to be in a good spot to complete the pass. That's where Romano is now. Problem is, if you don't do it here, then the swing back to the left, House-Seal should be able to keep some overlap here.
Yeah, but the overlap only works so far in this part of the racetrack. Eventually the overlap, you have to regroup. That's a little bit naughty on the cutback.
And that will send Romano for a slide. He gathers it up, but he'll drop a spot or two. We'll see if that one gets cleared by the judge and juror.
Yeah. Again, I think Romano tried to get the line, but the problem was didn't get the clear. But let's talk about Polasek now towards the front at least. He's now leading that 4th on back train as expected. They picked up the other cars all the way back to 8th position on the pylon. Now the tough thing's going to be getting that down. This straightaway is one of the prime examples to gain some time. They've gained about 2, 3, 4 tenths down this straight alone, down Oman.
Yeah, last time by, they basically ran the exact same times as the front 3. But now that they're organized, I think as long as they are playing the same game, they should be able to close this gap back up. It was a 225.997 for the leader, 225.678 for Polasek that time by. And last laps are on the left-hand side of your screen now for reference. So they are making up some ground. It's not a lot, but they are making up some. They have a lot of time left to go, though. 40 minutes. So don't get too excited and throw it all away.
Exactly. If anything, they just need to do this again for an hour or 2 laps, and they are back in the draft of the leaders. The draft effect about 1.5 seconds, depending on the circuit. They're doing exactly what they need to do. Competition is the word for it, after all. Even though you may be on different teams, different groupings, etc., just remain patient.
So I guess potentially the first of several penalties, or I guess warnings, in the case of Elliot Budzinski and the 11 of Vicente Salas. Unsafe rejoin at lap 6. So if we went back and looked at that again, I'd be curious to see if the rejoin was the cause of the tangling there. Once the 91 had left the racetrack, you're not really entitled to come back on. So perhaps that's the angle taken there, and in that case, the 11 might be all right in 10th place. He might not see a penalty, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. The tough thing about that, though, is you're talking about Budzinski. You have to make him a lot of ground to get back where he started. It's going to take some luck from that situation. But the leaders are cooperating, though, once again. Looks like Bellman knows what's at stake going on behind him and saying, if I make the pass, I accelerate the process to this next lap for the leaders to have it back up to an 8-car draft. If I just remain here, save, try to cool down my tires and cool down my stuff a bit, I think, okay, then let's cool it down, be safe. It looks like he's saying, you know what, they're going to catch us anyway, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, they were closing. They're down to just 2 seconds back now. And Vicente Salas has dropped off the timing and scoring screen momentarily. We'll update you on that as soon as we know more about what has happened. But Belleman back to the pointy end over the 92 and the 95. 38 minutes to go. And points leader is off the timing screen. That is big news.
He's out. He's out of the race. I think Salas, I think he has left the racetrack.
And I wonder if there's a penalty incoming that would explain why, as he just called it quits after winning at Sonoma. You know, this is going to be interesting to see. But you don't just pull off the racetrack for no reason, running in the top 10 spot here at a championship with $10,000 on the line.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to loop back and figure out from him directly what happened just now, because the one thing I can say based on the sim side, disappeared in the middle of the corner exit. Something technical had to have gone wrong.
Well, technical, that's it could be more likely. I was concerned that maybe there was a penalty coming for that contact. But, you know, I think Vicente's a smart driver. He wouldn't throw away a championship run for that, but who knows?
But irregardless to what that conversation is, he wasn't in that lead grouping catching up here.
Right.
But these two, Yanni and Bellman, I think are looking in prime position to be out of battle for the win. Right now it still comes down to, say, Lampe and Polasek to be able to shuffle around. That lead group is about to get a little bit more feisty again, because Polasek is just sniffing the backdraft of that, what is that, sand, white, and black machine.
Yeah, Polasek is 1.5 back now. The draft really starts to kick in about 8.5 to 9/10 back in this car, so he'll have a little bit more work to do. But the fact that he's even made it this far gives me great hope that he and the rest of this pack are going to catch the leaders, because if they weren't going to catch them, we would already know. The gap would be much larger than it is. It has come down in a significant way here, but it's still 3 drivers. Now they might be too close for their own good, holding each other up slightly in the middle of the corners, but there's Ethan Lampe once again. Now, Lampe and Bellman are in a great position based on their results at Sonoma. They're continuing to have a good run here today at Sebring. In only a 7-round championship, Justin, you have to have a good round every round. And Lampe and Bellman are in position to do that if they finish where they are.
Yeah, throw a little heavily into the championship conversation here, because looking at the previous runs, Bellman very quietly was a top 5 front runner. Lampe is Lampe, as looks like we have some more people in the penalty box.
Yeah, this one's for car 19. That's Cam Jordan. Contact resulting in an incident. Lap 8. That was 2 laps ago at the hairpin. So he will have to come on down and serve a drive-through penalty. Race control working overtime here early on.
I think that was an incident out of the back end. Remember Nicholas Sudik, where every time he got to 20, 30, got turned around at Sonoma?
Yeah.
Guess who was the car who was involved in that penalty report?
It's probably Sudik in that 87.
Yeah. He's got 0 luck. I mean, if he had any luck, he'd have no luck at all. Or what's the phrasing of it? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the other one I like to use is sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good, and sometimes you're good and can't get lucky, and it doesn't matter how good you are, because you need that little bit of luck to get to the top. And sounds like for Vicente Salas, potentially a mechanical issue which I'm curious about. Yeah, I mean, and that could be down to the curbs that we talked about, you know, bending up a suspension component or something, but that is bizarre and a frustrating way for Salas's round 2 to end.
That's actually a great point to think about, because with this car, we've seen a lot of people pogo sticking with the suspension and bouncing around. All it takes is that little bit of contact, and all it takes is any bit of trouble, and it can cause that there.
So, see if I could grab it and look at it here.
Yeah.
Maybe from on board.
Yeah, I believe it went out of Le Mans. He had the problem. He looks fine, looks fine. Right about here is where the car just breaks a hard left and immediately says,
oh,
yeah, something he didn't like was found there.
Yeah, that's an ugly end to the 11's run. And again, coming off of a win at Sonoma, like I said, you can't have a bad run. There's going to be drivers like Lampy, like Belleman, that are in the top 5 all season long. So that is going to hurt Salas's opportunities, I think, later in the season. Anyway, updating here as we close in on the halfway point. 33 minutes to go. Belleman, Yanni, Lampy, Polasek. Polasek is squarely back in the picture, and now it's Paul Darling, who is tasked with the proposition of running those front 4 down.
The one thing I'm concerned about Darling's case to do that is he's burned up a lot of tire. We already seen him cut off the grass a couple times trying to defend positions before when the lead group was compressed. Around this time is where if you've been trying to aggressively pass, trying to aggressively defend like him, you'll see the tires, the speeds drop off just that little bit, enough to possibly lose draft. Workman is saying, you know what? I'm back to where I was before I went off the track before. I'm going to go straight to work.
He has been hounding Sam Adams, or maybe vice versa, all race long. He and Sam have just gone back and forth. Here's an onboard with Sam Adams here as they go door to door, leaving turn 1. What other place can you do this? Battle a driver in the real-world Toyota GR Cup North America Series this closely and this tightly. This has got to be a lot of fun for Sam.
Just a little bit of contact from Sam Adams in particular. On the cross-up. Yeah, that was a massive slide. He does have some real-world road course experience, as you touched upon. He also works a lot on the oval side of the NASCAR scene with the dead zone side. But he's got no friends here to work with. He has nobody to go ka-choo with like that front of the car wants to do.
And Blake Townend to the 57, Ken House-Seal right behind, all in a battle for 14th spot. Weston Workman has it. Everyone else wants it. Workman has done work today, hasn't he? After starting up inside the top 15, moving forward a couple of positions, getting knocked back to the mid-20s, and now continues to climb up the order. It's 6 seconds to the next car, though. But still half the race left to go. I think a top 10 is a goal that he would like to achieve today. I also think it's possible, but it's going to take a lot of work.
I think for Workman, it's going to take, first of all, a little bit of patience from behind, or better yet, a little bit of raw pace and some mistakes for those in this drafting pack behind. Because the one thing I keep looking at the stopwatch is when he's in clean space, he's as quick as your front runners right now in the midst of the top 5 or so. You lose a lot of time, though, when you go side by side. Up to a second or 2 is the average across the field right now for those in these heavy packs that keep them going back and forth like a seesaw.
Whoa.
So,
did you see Sam Adams? He climbed that curb like it was Everest there through turn number 16. That was cool. Holy cow.
He's lucky because, remember, Ryan Doucette crashed in quali from the same type of curb ride. In fact, he's lucky he got the pass opportunity just straight up from Workman, missing the corner in front. He just about followed Workman off the track.
That is a huge launch from the 27. And yeah, the battle is still on. Even in the replay, they are still keeping the live action entertaining. And Ken House-Seal splits the difference now between the two. 15th place for the 23 car.
Yeah, I think for the time being, though, for Workman to get himself up in the top 10, he needs some help for those in the top 10 to lose themselves a bit of ground, and that's not going to be easy. In fact, that whole sequence, they were 16 seconds back before Workman went into the grass for a moment there. He's now 18 seconds back, and the leader of the group is 17 seconds. You can do the math. That all continues to pile on and add up at the midway point.
Yeah, it's not going to work out well for them if they continue to battle. It's a couple of groups of teammates behind them, though. Maybe that's a sign of things to go. You got Landry and Hendricks, and then Cofford and Romano, so 2 pairs of teammates in trail. Perhaps there could be some of that co-opetition we've been talking about for the latter half of this race, and they can close the gap up to Sievert in the 39 up in 13th place. All the while, up at the very pointy end, it's still a 4-horse race for first place, but Darling has not been able to close the gap, so it appears it will stay this way, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I think right now, Darling's not the one to be able to close the gap. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Castro in that pylon makes a swap soon. But to get to the point being made on some of this, these drivers are running as fast as 25.3s, the lead car and the 25.6s. Darling, as the lead car, is running about half a second slower than the person at the tail end of the main group. Lynn, I don't think, is going to be the one to lead them. I think Castro needs to make the cut pretty quickly, sacrifice a bit of time, sacrifice the 1 second for now, to be able to go for the betterment of the pack for the later stages. He does have people to work with like Stewart. Problem is, Stewart has Lynn, who is very hungry to pass everybody regardless.
Yeah, he's popping out of line here into turn 17. He's going to stay in line for the most part here. There's another pack. We've broken the field out into groups. Kevin Rold, Soto, Adams, Blaustein, and Sievert are in this one. And then it's Halcyon, Adams, Workman, the one that we were watching before. So this is exactly how the real series has played out. Is the cars separate into groups. We don't see one massive pack. We don't see 1 or 2 cars. It's groups of 3, 4, 5, or 6 that all separate out as Castro has gone by Darling, just like you suggested. And we'll see if that changes the math for this group.
And now this is a true math test. They actually didn't really lose any time at all from the move, if not 2-3 tenths, which is, if the move works out the way that Castro's hoping for, flips back anyhow. This group, well, they aren't thinking about catching the air group. They're thinking about where the highest position is. Matt Adams with a bit of a squeeze off in front of Rold.
Yeah, that was a wild pass there. He looks like he has been working hard in that number 17. He's got his triple screens. See the little shy little smile there for a moment as he had just driven by Kevin Rold. Joshua Soto's back there as well, trying to sneak up the outside. Another great battle just outside the top 10 for these two.
Soto I've been keeping an eye on because of all the slides we've seen from earlier on with the temperatures. Seems to have the car a bit underneath them right now. Still in that average pace you need to be in. But the main still thought process is eventually you'll end up having even more of the splintering. You mentioned how it's like in the real world, the packs break up. It's like that trend too with sim racing where the people who get grouped together, Kyle, are normally the ones who have comparable speed, and these drivers have near identical skill sets and pace.
You know, sometimes it can be advantageous to have a car that's slightly faster because you can chase them like the rabbit in the marathon, right? That will be helpful to you, but there are other times when having very closely matched pace, and better yet, matched intentions, that will allow you to drive forward. If everyone is kind of playing the same game, then you're in good shape to continue to gain time ahead. But Belleman, Yanni, Lampe, Polasek, your top 4. Then it's 3 seconds back to Castro, Darling, Lynn, and Stewart. Keep our eye on the second group as well. And if the math has changed at all, Darling's going to go back to the inside. Have they already given up, Justin, on catching those front 4?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's just Darling saying, I want to make the pass. I want to be the leader. You know what? I want points. He wants to have a Darling timeout here and say it's Paul Darling's pack to control. Problem is, there are 3 other people who would like to take the claim on the name of the Darling pack and say it's my pack.
Well, the points, that reasoning is pretty sound, and I mentioned that because they drop off pretty quickly. The higher up you finish, there's a lot more points to be had. 3 wide into turn 1 with Soto on the inside, Adams in the middle, and Rolled on the outside. Oh, trouble! Adams goes for a slide.
That's expected with that squeeze off. We touched upon it so many times. We've seen that so many times. I think the point face for Matt says it all. No shock. He went 3 wide. Nobody lifted and backed out. In fact, the 7 was taking the arc line and just got into the fender.
Yeah, this is a big hit there. Kind of the 1-2 punch to the rear and the front. That's going to cost the 17 of Matt Adams a race. And just, it's tight quarters down there. Could you do that successfully? Yes. I don't think in that manner they were going to do it. That will end Matt Adams' day. Blake Townend is also in the pit lane. Matt Friedman, Vicente Salas, Elliot Budzinski, and Devin Anderson. So about a half a dozen cars have met their end here at Sebring with 25 minutes to go.
Emotions are starting to ride a little bit higher in some of these groups. You have to think here. I think for Bellman and Yanni, this is going, well, exactly how you would hope it to be. 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, or whatever direction you want it to go here. Good points directions regardless. The 73 is not having a fun time.
No, that's a drive-through penalty for contact resulting in an incident on lap 14. That was just last lap at turn 3. So Micah Hendricks will have to hit pit lane. A busy day for Finian up in the race control tower. Alex Bellman dropping a left rear tire right over the edge of that rumble strip. When we were here, for those that have watched the real GR Cup broadcast, when we were here last September, I think it was the 99 of Drake Kemper, left turn 16, had his left side tires hanging over the edge of the curb, and the cars had dug a rut out behind the backside of that curb. It was about a foot deep, and there was a great replay and a great shot. I think it was race 2, you have to scrub for it, where the Continental tire was about 1/4 on the racetrack and 3/4 in the air over that rut. And had that tire dropped off the edge of the curb, he would have ground down the bottom of that GR86 like it was Parmesan cheese. It was an unbelievable shot there by the camera crew as Polasek looks down the inside of Lampe for third.
He takes the draft shot up the inside. Why not at that point? Lampe left the door open. Lampe was trying to lift a little bit. May as well make the move, take the spot, then see if he can take away second some way, because everyone's remaining that oh-so-patient line. But even with the car getting turned around in the last lap, they aren't remaining patient back here.
Ben Blaustein chasing Kevin Roll. This is just outside the top 10, battling for 11th at the moment. Little push there for Blaustein. Heard him have to get out of the throttle. Couldn't quite commit. We are running a fixed setup here in this series, but it has been dialed in to really take advantage of this car's strengths in the balance and the agility that it has. But if you get on throttle too quickly, you still can push it into an understeer condition and run yourself wide off the road.
Especially if you, like I said, burn up the fronts, but better yet, go too strong into corners, try and push hard into said corners.
Oh.
Try to overexert. Looks like the other Adams car is around.
Yeah, Sam Adams. This is down at the hairpin, and he was on the inside of the corner, which is kind of a peculiar spot to end up. And this is a big lunge from Weston Workman. No, it was actually the 5 of Landry that got into him and sent him around into the tire bundles. Here again.
Already probably going to get looked at. Yeah, set it a little bit hard.
You know what?
Actually hit. Yeah, he bounced off the car in front.
That's how
I know he's going to probably say, but I got turned around. But at the same time, you went hard into House Seal's back bumper.
Yeah, no, apologies to Landry. He was not involved in that. Didn't create that scenario. It was just Sam Adams getting in there too hot, bounced off the 23, and he went for a ride, unfortunately, and that's going to cause him some damage. That car should be able to continue, but it's not going to be quite as efficient through the air as it was. We're 3 abreast with Rick Segrini in the middle.
Oh, Rick Segrini, yet again, trying to prove, well, he's very fast, for one. But 2, just trying to see which drivers lift, which drivers give the give and take. In this case, I think everybody knows with how Rick Segrini is on the platform, with how Rick Segrini is, of course, in the rear world, as you touched upon. They already know that he's not going to wait for you.
And back to your regularly scheduled programming at the front of the field. Yanni back by Belleman. Polasek's back to 3rd. Man, they have just been trading positions like baseball cards here at the front, haven't they?
Yeah, it's almost like they've been at a sports card expo with how they've been trying to swap around, throw the cards around, see, oh, can I trade this for this? Okay, perfect. Okay, I can get the spot. Oh, you're in 3rd spot? You have 2 cards? No, you have to stay in 3rd.
Well, they have 1/3 of the race remaining, 20 minutes to go. That's going to be about 8 laps worth of time. And I could not tell you which of these front 4 is going to come out on top, Justin. They have been dead even. Yanni and Belleman have obviously been the favorites, but Polasek has gotten knocked out of this top 5 a couple of times and has always found his way back to 3rd, which I think shows a lot of relative strength. And then, of course, Ethan Lampe, he is just biding his time in that number 95.
Yeah, with Lampe, you already touched upon him, expect to be a championship competitor for the front runners, I should say, for much of the season. I think that statement continues to ring true the more he does well in these races. That comes down to the qualifying. This is why so many drivers put emphasis on that, because if you look towards where a lot of some of these drivers started the races here today, only 2 have started in the top 9, or rather, are running top 9 from outside the top 10. It takes a lot of skill to get up here if you're not in the top 10 to start.
Well, just like the real world, qualifying, I think, is still one of the most important sessions of the weekend, because the better you do in qualifying, the less work you have to do come race time. And when the field is as strong as it is here, it is absolutely critical that you don't have to pass all that many cars. We're side by side again for the lead down the back straightaway, the Ullman Straight towards Sunset Bend, turn 17.
I think this kind of proves one thing. Bellman wants to be the leader for the most part. Yes, the trends continue for Yanni with these trade-ups, but it's clear with how much Bellman pushes the second he's in second, he doesn't want to settle. Yanni has the good speed, though, for the squeeze of the exit 3 wide.
Oh, we're doing it. Polasek to the inside, 3 abreast into turn 1 here at Sebring. How do you do that? Lampy's watching from behind. Can he pick the pocket of somebody? Down to the inside of the 3 car leaving turn 1. Still 3 abreast contact. Yanni pushed off course.
Oh, that was close with the glue. Yanni even used the late lunge to be able to try and clear himself there. Barely makes the corner.
Big slide there for the 92 as well. He's got it gathered up, but at the expense of 0.8 of a second to Michael Polasek, who snuck through there from 3rd to steal the lead away and build an 0.8 of a second advantage all in one go.
That advantage isn't going to last for much longer, though, just with the trends of the racetrack. Polasek going to get a chance to look at this move, though. Polasek eventually says here, you know what? I've been running 2nd, 3rd, basically 3rd the whole time. I've got to control my destiny. They're so focused on each other up there on the higher lines that they just forget Polasek's even down there.
Yeah, then Lampy comes in here, spooks Belleman, who's going to push the 92 just a touch wide there. I don't think he meant to do that. Just probably looked in the mirror, saw the 95, and panicked for a moment. But they all got through there all right. The 92 had a big slip again a moment ago in Cunningham, and now Belleman and Lampy are just trailing in the rear view. But Polasek, again, Mr. Where did he come from? I told you a couple laps ago that he might be one of the drivers to watch because of how strong he has been rebounding from those rare moments where he's gotten knocked out of the top 3.
Yeah, this was right to where I mentioned the speed expectations for the opening round that didn't live up fully. We touched upon him, how many times he's run on his own 24-hour races for charity. Now, the question, can he run away here? Because if Yanni and Bellman spend too much time here going back and forth, there is the strong chance for a while they close the draft. You know who's also closing in now that they've had a swap run again? Lynn, Darwin, and Castro have finally started to find some water weights.
Yeah, they have made up some big-time ground. 225, 685 last time, which was quicker than everybody except Michael Yanni in that 92 last time around. So Anshi Lin is making progress. That wasn't a huge gap last time, but if those leaders continue to scrap like they have been, this gap could close very quickly indeed. And still 16 minutes to go. Plenty of time for things to formulate here. Here's Paul Darling on the back of the 30, and he would love a top 5 result here. But you have to weigh, do I commit to only finishing as good as 5th, or do I work together with Lynn to try to get better than that?
Work together with Lynn. Straight answer, that's the better move. Look at the time now that they've worked together and finally settled it up. I'll put my hand up and say I didn't think Lynn was going to be the one to lead the group here and be able to find the pace, but here we are. But this is all coming down from, especially, the major fight in front that puts them in the 126-second bracket. This is exactly what I talked about. Co-opetition, and Darling will be one of those we expect to cooperate. Castro, it's going to be waiting, I think, to see, can I help Nate Storr come with me so I have help for the main pack and have the only teammate in the lead groups later.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on these cars running nose to tail here, 5th through 8th. There's Nate Stewart at the back of the shot there, the Simrap Market car. The number 4 from Dead Zone Racing. One of the nicest looking liveries in the field, I have to say. Can't pick a favorite, but that one's on the list for sure. And it looks the part, and he has been in the conversation all afternoon. Just shy of a top 5 still at the moment, with 5th at the very pointy end of this pack that he's racing in now.
Yeah, and the wild thing to me is, for the longest time, I always threw Nate Stewart into the oval ring. In fact, he can probably say the same thing. But he's a part of those who come for the oval side. And eventually you reach a certain point of the oval side where, to put it politely, you get so high on the iRating side, you want to put it in a box. So you learn different disciplines. That's where you've seen Parker White become one of the top road course racers and better than oval after coming up to the fixing side in trucks. You talk about some of the others, like Salas, like many of your Coke drivers in NASCAR drivers from the pro level there that are now triple running world championships because, well, you have to be able to be multifaceted in this day and era. Road courses are big in NASCAR now. Road courses are big on the dirt in general. For 2 different championships on the iRacing platform, you need to do it all.
Certainly do. And you got to be good at it too, because here comes Paul Darling down the inside again, past Wan Shi Lin. They had lost another second or so to the leaders. Maybe there was, again, a consolation here. Castro crosses over here, has a look, and would like to get into the conversation for 5th place. He's going to go right by Wan Shi Lin and drop into 6th place. Honestly,
they're racing like they don't expect to get up there unless something crazy happens. That's just at least the feeling I'm getting here.
Yeah.
You know what's big, though, with the lead pack? You talked about Polasek and the speed. We've touched upon him and harped upon that all day. The draft still hasn't helped everyone close yet. It finally is just closing at about a 10th. But Polasek's just that good in the main corners where draft isn't obviously needed or to be dependent on, that everyone else is having a hard time keeping up by the draft section.
I think one of the greatest strengths of this Toyota GRNA6 platform, beyond just the handling and the controllability of it on the road, is how slippery it is. It has a very low drag coefficient. Now that's a great thing for going fast on a racetrack and a great thing for fuel economy as well, but what it isn't great for is creating a big hole in the air. One of the things we didn't see a lot last season in the real world is drafting being kind of an overdog strategy. Yes, it is helpful. Yes, it will help you, but it is not going to just drive you by someone that is better than you. You have to be as good as them and use the draft as a tool. So while we're seeing Yanni and Bellarmine close back in, it is taking them a while to do so. I don't think you can wait to the last lap, to the last corner. I think you're going to have to force it a little earlier than that, just to give yourself an out, another attempt. And Yanni's got a penalty, a cut course, and through comes Bellarmine. And
that's track cut penalty.
Yeah.
Straight up. Polasek went too far in one of the corners. And if you go more than 50% through any of the corners, you have the risk of a corner cut penalty. If you go back to this section right here, watch the left side. That's more than 50% of the car. Clear cut. That's a slowdown. And that opens the door for everybody else.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake there for Polasek, and we were just talking about how he had such an advantage being up front and having pace. He's going to have to pass everyone all over again. They're going to help him out, though, by doing battle once more. 11 minutes to go, side by side into turn 1, and now Lampy's part of the battle.
They're running out of laps to do something here. The estimate's under 5 to go. The intensity, I don't think you can wait. I don't think you can remain patient anymore. You have to go if the opening's there. That's why Lampy's setting it.
Yanni, big curb jump through turn 3, and he is through to 2nd place. Bellarmine back to the point, and Polasek, after that big mistake at turn 16, has undone all the sins, and he's back to 4th place right on the heels of Lampy.
All for the Lampy mistake, too hard on that aggressive move, and that's a little bit of an aggressive squeeze from Lampy.
The hairpin, that's really deep for Polasek. I cannot believe he got that car stopped, leaning on the Bosch ABS. And up and alongside the 3rd place car. This is fantastic stuff, and we still have 10 minutes to go. Sebring is putting on a show in virtual Central Florida here in iRacing in the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. Round 2 of 7. We've got a lot of season left to go, and they're already putting on a great show here in round 2.
It's been an exciting one to say the very least, but this field has been extremely tight from the onset for most parts in the lead group. Johnny and Bellman, I think at this point, have already seen there's not an easy path for them to just hold on 1-2 all race. Polasek might take a 3 wide again. Everybody else, the next two send attempts from the lead group open up the door for everybody else. It's quite simple. In other words, you have the potential of this going up to an 8-car battle again the next couple pass attempts that slow everybody else up.
Yeah, it certainly could be a topic of conversation, and just keeping an eye on those track limits through turn 16 and 17. And you know, one of the other things that we talked about in the pre-race is that there is now a new track limits ruling here. We're using the iRacing incident system. 20 incidents is a drive-through penalty, and every additional 10 is another drive-through. That is a new rule implemented for this based on how Sonoma went, and we have to keep that in mind every time we see these drivers run a little wide. Now, thankfully, the concrete areas won't get that to you, but anytime you're off in the grass, it certainly will. But those slowdowns are automatically issued by iRacing if you cut the track, as we saw with Polasek. You can't get away with that. There's no steward watching that. That is the computer doing that for you, and it is never wrong.
Good pass by Lindo in the midst of this pack, but to quickly touch upon that one more time, this was one of the tracks that had, at one point, the rule exception, so to speak, for the off limits. That's why there's so many limitations, or rather the exceptions you could say for the pavement sections, compared to the previous system, where you cross the white line and it's going to be very, very tight if you avoid the off track. Here's the chance, though, for Yanni again, outside line. They've been able to make it work to keep it side by side. Watch for the chance, if not the diamond.
Oh, great run out of turn 7. Big slide for Belleman. He's got the tail wagon at the 3. And now Yanni's going to have to pull up alongside. Where do you go? He's going to go left. That's not the lane you want, though, for turn 10 at Cunningham. And Polasek's right here in behind.
Great diamond line, but if he can keep it side by side for the next couple corners, though, might have a chance to force the lift from Belleman. This has helped Lampy close right back up, and it's now seized 2x2.
Oh, this is spectacular racing here at Sebring. Still side by side. Polasek has Lampy to the outside. Maybe a little front to rear contact there with the 3 of Belleman. Are we going to be 3 abreast leaving Tower Turn? Not quite. But now run up to Bishop Bend, a high-speed left-hand kink here. Look at Polasek looking to the right. We're going to be 3 wide again.
Don't think he's going to send it fully. Wait to the straight. Just showing the nose, forcing the overcommit, opens the door for himself. Perfect opportunity for Polasek. Just needs to wait for the straightaway. Omen straight, great chance. If he can get clear of Lampy, problem is Lampy got there.
Great battle between Lampy and Polasek and extremely fair racing. That's the expectation through turn 16. The track's 2 lanes wide, one driver takes left, one driver takes right, and you don't run into each other. Great sportsmanship there, even in the heat of battle. In the background, Wan Shi Lin, Andre Castro, Paul Darling, they are scrapping for 5th place.
Some good moves on the outside yet again. Everybody's saying, I don't know about Lin, I want to shuffle things. Darling, well respected from his team for Satellite, just can't get the runs to get the lead spot back. The interesting thing is, because of all the intensity up there, they are still gaining another send up there at the road. Lin's having to play defense this pack.
Yeah, this is just fantastic stuff here, and they have closed the gap again, another second this time because of all the racing they're doing at the front here. But I don't know that they'll stay racing this hard for the rest of the race. They're going to tuck back in line and maybe plan their moves. This becomes a chess match. But again, these cars with the closed tops and the slippery aero, they are not going to be as unpredictable, or I guess as predictable as some of the other one-make series that you might see where it's an automatic pass when you're in the draft. It is not that way in Toyota GR Cup. You have to plan it, but you can't wait too long.
Exactly, it's some draft, but sends like this kind of emphasize this is a driver's car. If you want to succeed, you need to be good at driving corners and good at the brakes and good at committing. Just take a look at this set. Hard up on the brakes, using every little bit of luxury adjustable shocks, getting the car to stick, then use those out on brakes to make the corner, make the pass, that takes driver skill to make passes like that.
I mean, that thing was stood up on its nose. It was almost a bicycle for a second with the only two wheels that were working being the front two. Yanni all over Belleman here. They've established an 8/10, 9/10 of a second differential back to Polasek. I think they'd love nothing more than to be the only two drivers battling for this win as Kevin Rold has gone off. This is at Cunningham. Let's see what happened here. Soto alongside him.
I see this pack never calm down, and watch the glue. Yep, quite simply another squeeze coming off. One car tries to pinch, one car comes up, try to play the curbing, and one gets sent to the grass.
Yeah, that was a little tight for me, I think, from Soto, but either way, it's going to hurt Rold quite a bit. 17th place. Weston Workman stalled out at 16th. We haven't seen much more from him after getting caught in the battle he had with Sam Adams earlier in this race. Avoidable contact warning given to the 3 car. That was Thomas Belleman, so he's already on the naughty list, but that was just a warning for avoidable contact in turn 1, lap 18. I think that was that battle. Yes, it was. It was the contact with Yanni in the 92 that sent the 92 out wide.
Howard, don't get a little bit naughty. Don't get any naughty, obviously, for this. Keep it clean, and these have been your two dominant drivers all race. No need to throw it away right here and now and throw away any possible strong points here. Belleman and Yanni still have the best shot. Polasek has the chance to play spoiler on the 1-2 throughout the day. We've already seen he's been able to drive away. If it wasn't for the slowdown, we might still be talking about Polasek playing defense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Polasek, the track position he had, the speed that he had, that was almost going to be undeniable. But as soon as he got shuffled out with that cut course penalty, he has been unable to bring it back to the pointy end. Yanni and Belleman, though, they are going to fight fiercely to the end here. There are hundreds of dollars on the line here and 10,000 over the course of the season on the line in the championship. You have to take what you can. But you don't want to draw a penalty and get yourself knocked down the order. So the expectation is clean, tidy, fair racing if you want to come out on top with the win and the prize money.
They're running out of time in general, though. Expecting the white flag, it looks like, this upcoming time by. If not, it's going to be close. Right now, just 2:45 on the clock. I think it will be white flag next time.
It will be. It will be 1 lap to go. So we are on 2 laps to go at the moment. There's just over 4 miles remaining in this battle as Belleman leads Yanni. Polasek's right there in behind, and now you're thinking 3 chess moves ahead. Let's see what these drivers do. Really, this run up to turn 17 is going to be interesting because we could see drivers try to make a pass this time by Justin and then just try to defend it next time.
There is the argument, even with draft not being the end-all be-all potentially today. Do you want to be the driver second to start the final lap or the one first? I think Belleman's making it clear with the snaky snake. He wants to be the one first, never let go of first, and stays first. That's not going to be easy, though, coming to the white flag expecting.
He has led a whole bunch of laps today, and it would be a bummer for him if he did not come out on top. He has been one of the dominant forces. Look how tight it is to the wall through turn 17. They have been scraping the pit wall on the run down to turn 1, trying to widen out the racetrack. There's the white flag. 1 lap to go at Sebring in the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. It's a 4-way battle for the top spot.
Here comes Yanni, though, on the send. Belleman letting him have it that corner. Get himself the pinch. Try and get the defense on.
Side by side, Yanni in the 92. That's the black and red car. Polasek in behind in 3rd place. Lampy just waiting to pick up the pieces of any crash that happens after. Belleman leads to turn 3, but a big sideways slide as Yanni drives up to the rear bumper.
Yanni taking these curves aggressively, though, trying to use every little bit of inch of this racetrack. He might have to go outside again if he gets this attempt on. Belleman's making it clear you're going to have to go on a long way around if you want a chance to make a pass.
There's Belleman. Here's his on board. He is cool as a cucumber right now in the Florida heat. Down into the braking zone for turn 7. Yanni side by side with him here. It's going to be a tight squeeze at the exit. Now a drag race to Cunningham.
Good pinch off, though, from Yanni. Keep it side by side. Polasek's going to help a little bit. We've already seen some struggles to keep it side by side here. Whoa, that's near contact for Polasek trying to go 3 wide.
2 by 2 into Cunningham here. Keep the fenders off each other, boys. Yanni going to squeeze through and take the lead. Polasek pulls alongside Belleman as well.
And now it's the trouble part. Yanni, every time he's taken a lead, has immediately been under attack by Bowman. He needs help from Polasek if he really wants to get the job done here. He needs second to fight aggressively before the final sector. Doesn't look like that's going to happen necessarily yet, even with the poke. Now there is a poke.
Oh, door to door into Jean de Bien. This is a great battle for second, but it could be all it's for as Yanni tries to pull away. Polasek keeps the car on the road. Contact between the two. Lampy's going to set him up to drive by both of them on the backstretch. Here comes the 95.
This is exactly what Yanni needed. Be able to have second, fight aggressively, run away, run away. Polasek is spending so much time trying to fight for second, they are letting the leader run.
This is all they needed. Yanni leads the way, but the battle for seconds, three abreast into the final corner. Polasek trying to keep Lampy behind him. Checkered flag waving as they rocket through the last couple of corners here. Turn 17, Michael Yanni on the last lap comes on through, checkered flag, and wins at Sebring in the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. Wow, what a battle, what a race for the PT Autosport with Precision Racing LA driver. He muscled his way to the front, and the margin for third, 41 thousandths of a second.
I'm surprised Polasek went for the move when he did before the final straight. We've seen drivers lose a lot of time. That was the perfect opportunity for Yanni to run. They've spent so much time fighting for second, he could just take a breath and take a breathe and take a runaway to the checker flag.
You have to feel for Thomas Belleman. He was probably the one to beat in this race, and he ended up being the one that Yanni had to beat, and he comes home fourth. That is not the finish that he was looking for. Not a bad one. This is not the win.
Still a top five, still good points, still in the championship conversation early on in the season. But it's the thought process of, if I could have prevented Polasek from getting alongside, this might have been a very different conversation on the final lap. We might have actually seen Bellman get the pass back.
Well, before we look at our results, let's have another look at the battles coming to the checkers here a little bit further back. Here is battle for P2 between Lampy and Polasek, and then Belleman was trying to pull up alongside here right at the checkers. And he had a run coming, but it just was not quite close enough. 41 thousandths of a second there. And then for seventh place, Andre Castro and Nate Stewart bouncing off each other. That was 44 thousandths of a second between those two.
We already know Vicente works a lot with Castro. Not sure how much between him and Stewart, but they got just a little bit paint trading. No harm, no foul. They didn't lose spots from it.
Well, with that, we're going to talk to our top three drivers here in a couple of minutes. But let's have a look at our race results here. Round two of the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League from Sebring. It was Michael Yanni on top by just under a second over Michael Polasek, Ethan Lampy, Thomas Belleman, Paul Darling, and Wan Shi Lin. Great top five there for Darling. He was able to come out on top after all that scrapping with that group.
Yeah, some impressive runs amongst that top five. Castro still in the seventh. Stewart. How about Blaustig finishing off in the ninth position? He was quietly holding on to that third group's top spot. Also a good cut to the field. Christopher Severt up from 20th to 10th in that top 10. That grouping, it was able to break away a lot from Soto Landry and company because of how aggressive things got. We already seen with at least 3-4 cars getting spun in that fourth pack today.
Yeah, and looking down the rest of the order, there are some drivers that didn't really have the day they were looking for. Penalties for Cam Jordan late in the race. Aiden Yoder didn't have the result he was hoping for either. But at the bottom of the order, there are some big names and big news down here. This was not the way that points leader Vicente Salas wanted to leave Sebring. 35th place, no points will be awarded to the number 11. That is a bummer for him and for Max Hewitt. Matt Adams also crashed about 10 laps away from the checkers. Elliot Budzinski also involved in an incident there. So not the result that those drivers were looking for, but different names at the front of the field. Some the same, but I think we're beginning to see really the cream of the crop here.
Especially when it comes to those experience with this type of racing and with the river car like Yanni is, as we touched upon with his team connections. This could be an intense battle to the very end for this championship. That was the mindset I had coming into Sonoma in the first place, seeing the registry list, seeing the entries throughout the field. I think races like today kind of emphasize it's going to be difficult to run away for the championship because each track fits some drivers better than others.
I think you're right about that, and each track on this calendar has a really unique characteristic, and this one is so completely different from Sonoma. I think there is a lot of question marks as to how this is going to race in comparison to the track out in California, but just like we saw last year, Sonoma, it wasn't, I wouldn't call it tame, but it was, drivers just breaking away and ticking off laps. But this time, we saw dozens of drivers having really fierce battles all up and down the order. And what we were left with was a last lap battle for the win like we were anticipating. So that means we'll likely see something similar at COTA as well, which I'm very excited about, Justin. That is going to be a fun race up on our calendar shortly.
Yeah, I think these drivers are going to get a little bit weird in Austin, as the saying goes. But better yet, when it comes to COTA, very ebb and flow type of track, a similar drafting section to the Omen Straight, but even longer for about half the track at COTA. That track, though, in general, is going to see a lot of potential for corner cuts.
It certainly will, and that will be a huge topic of discussion. But one of the 3 topics of discussion for the tail end of this race is Ethan Lampe, who brings his number 95 car home in 3rd place, a podium for you, Ethan. Congratulations. Job well done. That was a great fight there at the end. I know you would have wanted a couple spots better, but you keep putting yourself in position, and that's all you can ask for in a championship fight 7 rounds long.
Yeah, it was a great race. Really close the entire time. I'm happy that the top 4 got a bit of a break early on. Took a lot of pressure off of me, but very good points haul. We're back in the points lead now, I believe. 2 third places to start the season, not a bad way at all. Yeah, it was a really good run, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
I was going to say, with the ebbs and flows of the championship, that this championship can go back and forth a fair bit. What's the ebb and flow, in your opinion, going to be like for the Circuit of the Americas next docket race?
Well, that's a really hard track. I feel like it's going to get spread out fairly quickly. It's really hard to follow there, so we'll see how that plays out. But not my favorite track on the calendar, but if it's a good race, then I'm looking forward to it.
Ethan, thanks so much. Congratulations. 2 podiums to start the season. Certainly not a bad way to start it. And he should, as you said, be leaving here as the points leader. Great, strong start, and we'll see you at COTA.
Thank you.
All right, next up is going to be Michael Polasek, who comes home in 2nd place in the number 45. And Michael, what a drive. You were one of the only drivers to kind of drop out of that top 5 and then drive back into it over and over and over again. The strength that you had today was not unnoticed. It just didn't quite work out. You got yourself a cut course penalty near the end there and then had to fight your way back through it. Almost put yourself in position to win, but P2, not a bad way to leave Sebring.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm very happy about this race. Got up in some early race melees, and unfortunately, I just lost the draft because of it. Ideally, I just would have liked the field to stay as like one big lead pack and keep with the lead pack until maybe like 5 minutes to go, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But fortunately, I just had the pace, and I was lucky enough that the cars behind just didn't want to fight me. So I was able to work my way all the way back up to the lead pack, and then fortunately, I was able to capitalize, get that 3 wide move done into T1, and unfortunately, just getting that slowdown probably cost me a decent chance I had of winning the race, but I'm really happy with the recovery I had to P2, and I'm really happy with the race overall. It was really, really fun.
One of the things we noted as well was that final lap move through Bishop. It was an interesting time. It seemed to be the breakaway point for Yanni. Talk to us about the decision-making on the pass attempt and what was going through your mind in the midst of the side-by-side to that final sector.
Basically, at that point, I just got to take what I can get, and hopefully we survived, and I just had to take what I could. Unfortunately, Yanni was just too far away. He just had enough of a gap, so P2 was the best I could get, so I went and got it.
Well, congratulations on a job well done. A podium here. Great points day for you and your Obsidian Racing car, so congratulations on that. COTA's up next, though, Michael. Thoughts on Circuit of the Americas? It's a totally different animal than the bumps here at Sebring.
COTA, one of my least favorite tracks, but it should provide really good racing, especially in the third sector with all the super tight corners. You can see a lot of 2, maybe even 3 wide into there. And the straights are long enough that the draft's still going to play a major factor. It might be like a hybrid between the single file racing of Sonoma and the absolute chaos that was here.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing you there, Michael. Congratulations, and enjoy this. We'll see you at Circuit of the Americas in Austin in a few weeks.
All right, thank you very much.
And Michael Yanni comes home as the winner here at Sebring. Michael, the battle at the front was just phenomenal today between yourself, Michael Polasek, Ethan Lampe, Thomas Belleman. It was electric at the front, and it seemed like a bit of a revolving door there, and whoever was last through it was going to come home the winner. And it was the last lap pass as we were anticipating. Congratulations, you're a winner in the Toyota GR Cup North America eSports League. Take us through that battle at the end with those other 3. Oh, I don't have your microphone, Michael.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so to be completely honest with you, that was anybody's race. I came out on top just because I was able to move through on that last lap, like you said. Honestly, these guys were faster than me in every regard. There were a few cases where we would lose a little bit to whoever was in the lead, and I just couldn't close it. So I definitely have some room for improvement there. But yeah, hats off to these guys. That was really, really fun racing. Honestly, out of everything I've ever done in sim racing, this is the most fun car to drive. So races like that just solidify it for me.
We were talking about this a little bit in terms of Team Connection, Precision Racing LA, for example. How has that connection from the real world to virtual and virtual to real world assisted in terms of not just the performance that you've had today, but in general, what we've seen you do with this car as one of the top drivers on iRacing when it comes to this style racing?
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank him for the opportunity. Absolutely. Running a mirror livery to a real life GR86 team in our SRO is it's really, really cool. And I've been chatting with the guys. I'll be down at Sebring for the next round, and I'll get a chance to meet the guys, hang out with them for a bit. So, yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about in my mind, going from sim to real life. So, any connections like that, any representation, that's where I want to be. So, all good from me today. And yeah, once again, thanks for the opportunity from them.
Michael, thanks so much. I will see you down in Sebring, so we'll have to make sure to stop into the PT Autosport camp. Thanks so much. Congratulations on your win here today at Sebring, and good luck to you in round 3 of the championship at Circuit of the Americas.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, that's going to wrap up the interviews here today. What a race, Justin. I mean, we anticipated some excellent battles, and we got them in true form at Sebring International Raceway. The track's been here forever. The car is relatively new, but those two things are a match made in heaven. But we've got a lot of racing left in the calendar. Circuit of the Americas up next. Completely different again. Big, wide open racetrack, but lots of flowing corners and some tight sections to really create those crossover moves we've been anticipating.
Yeah, it should be an interesting time out in Austin, Texas once again, because we touched upon the ebbs and flows. That first sector in particular with all the S's and all of those complexes have the chance of going off track several times. If you mess up the flow even once, it can cost you a good 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. That run up to turn 1, though, in the opening lap may be the most crazy start we have all season, because drivers go up to 9 wide there.
Yeah, basically, as wide as the track is, we're going to put cars there. And then it narrows all the way down to nothing, and the apex looks like, the point of an isosceles triangle. It's going to be a wild, wild race in Austin in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks so much for joining us here today. We've got plenty more. This series precedes the real-world Toyota GR Cup North America Series 1 week before each of the rounds for the rest of the year. So that means next Saturday we go racing at Sebring. I'll be alongside DJ Clark at the booth for Toyota GR Cup North America right here on GT World and on the SRO Motorsports Twitch channel. Look forward to seeing you there in sunny Florida. And of course, after that, we've got Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And then we've got the whole rest of the season. We've got VIR, Road America, Barber Motorsports Park, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is so much on the calendar to be excited about. And again, Justin, thanks for joining me today. What a race. I can't wait for round number 3 of the championship. This has been Toyota GR Cup North America Esports. We'll see you next time here on GT World. I'm Kyle Heyer with Justin Prince. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you